Okay, the final video, we're going into Motif J now. So I'm just going to open my track. Motif J is a little bit fiddly. It's 3 bars long, so I'm going to do the same thing I did at the beginning of the last video, which is to go in and just play a note. My first note is C3, so might as well play the correct first note. But I just need any note in there, and then I can go back to the main edit screen and drag this until it is 3 bars long. So it ends at the beginning of bar 4. Makes it much easier to edit when you can see all 3 bars at once. Okay, I'm going to expand this quite a lot because we've got some short notes in here. So my first note is not actually at the beginning of the bar, it's right near the end. It's one tiny box inside beat 4. So I'm going to move that along. This is only going to be 1 box long, this note. And it's 3 boxes from the end of the bar. Now, it does look like on your sheet, it looks like 2 boxes or just a bit more than 1, but it's a dotted quaver, which means staccato. I'm going to make it short. So 1 box is fine. You could go a little bit over, it's fine, but I think 2 boxes too long. My next note then will have a slight gap and will be G3, and that will also be 1 box. Sorry, not G3, D3. Okay, and there is a G3 on top of that. That's an F sharp, that's a G, and an F above the first note. So just 2 very short notes right at the end of bar 1. Now into bar 2, again there's a big gap here, 3 beat gap. So you're starting on the 4th beat. Sorry, don't want that. Okay, so if I just zoom out a tiny bit, you can see 2, 2.2, 2.3. Those are the numbers of the beats. So beat 2 of bar 2, beat 3 of bar 3, beat 4 of bar 3, and beat 4 is where we're going to start those 4 semiquavers. So there'll be 1 box each. Starting on G sharp 3, then G3, F3, and G3. All 1 box. And in fact, that last note is dotted, so maybe you want to make that even shorter, and that does show up as shorter on the screen as well that you're editing from. Just half a box for that last G in bar 2. Onto the final bar, you're missing out the first box and putting a 1 box F. Then a 1 box D. Then you've got a gap, and the last 2 notes are actually the same as the first 2 notes, these ones here. You could copy and paste that, but I think it's probably just quicker to be over here in the right place, tapping it in. And tapping it in correctly. So we are 1 box into the 4th beat. I just can't scroll across here. There we go. So there's beat 4 of bar 3, and we're 1 box in playing a C3. And that is going to be 1 box. Miss a box and hit D3. And actually that's staccato as well, so I think maybe that should be half a box there, and the same thing in bar 1. Half a box at the end instead of a full box, because you want that. If that's a dotted semiquaver, it is a very short sounding note. Sorry, not dotted, staccato. Okay. And I've just got those extra notes to add in at the end, the F, 1 box, and the G, which is half a box. Okay, that's quite a tricky motif, so I am going to listen to that and check that it's come out sounding okay. So I'm going to solo this track. And just have a listen. Yep, sounds good. So that is J, moving on to K. Not moving on to K, sorry, J short. Motif J short is literally just the first bar of this. So I can copy... Oh, I didn't rename it. That's awful. Always rename these guys. Motif J, copy. I'm going to paste into bar 4. And just tap on it so that I can shrink it down to 1 bar. And it's just those last few notes of the first bar. And that is Motif J short. I think I put brackets on the short last time. It's not important. Okay, that's done. Now we can move on to K. K is straightforward because all the notes are 2 beats long. Let's duplicate this. I think it's about now that iPhones run out of space for tracks, so you'll need to be shifting things up to the top so that you've got more space to create your new tracks. I'm going to edit inside here. And I don't really need to zoom in because these notes are long notes. So we're going to have A2. And these are going to fill half a bar. So you drag that note until it's halfway through bar 1, halfway between that and bar 2. A2, D3, F3, then C3, E3, and G3, B flat 2. Because this is 2 bars long, let's come out of this before we go into the second bar. Instead of having to join it, I can just stretch that out and then go back in and edit the full 2 bars joined together. So that was B flat 2, pencil tool, halfway through the bar, D3 and G3, and finally B flat 2 again, D3 again, and F3. And then Motif K short is just the first 3 of those 4 chords, so it's a bar and a half. Let's copy that, paste it into bar 3. And we're just going to shorten it, so you tap on it, and then shorten it by half a bar, so that it stops halfway through, in this case bar 4. Just 1.5 bars, so you should see 3 chords there instead of 4, and rename that short. Moving on, we've got Motif L. It's another one that's a little bit fiddly. And another one that's 2 bars, so I'm going to do the same thing as last time. Put in my first note, which is F3. And that's a 1 beat note, so that's actually already come out at the right length. Then I'm going to go back to the main window screen and click on that so that I can drag it to 2 bars. So that's much better than joining bars together, like I did right at the beginning of these videos. Okay, that's the only note in that bar, so the other notes are in bar 2, and we've got 2 D3s. Let's get that editing tool on. And they are half the length of that first note. And in fact, the second one, I'm going to make shorter because it's got a staccato dot on it. So I'm making that just one box. Then I've got a 3-box gap, and then I need an F3. And that's a semiquaver, but it's tied to a quaver, so that's going to be 3 boxes. And finally, there's another quaver, which would normally be 2 boxes, but it's staccato, so I'm going to shorten that as well. You know what, I've done these a little bit too far back. Uh-oh. Bear with me, you're probably finished already while I add and delete notes all over the place. That will not let me select both. Okay, I'm just going to move them along. Yeah, the reason I got confused there was because this note should be 2 boxes because it's a quaver, and then there'd be a 3-box gap. But because this note was shorter, I moved these too far back. Basically, now it's correct, okay? So just make sure you've got the right number of boxes for each note and the right number of boxes gap before you put those last 2 notes in. That is motif L done. We've got a couple more of these, so let's rename this. And I'm going to copy that. Go to bar 3. And we're just going to edit these pitches, exactly the same rhythm, so all the notes are already in the right place. Or sorry, they're already the right length. We just need to move them up and down the keyboard to the new pitches. So it's this second bar, or third and fourth bars, I should say, that we're looking at. The first note is going to be a D1. So actually I'll select all of these because they're all going to go lower. So let's move this down to a D1. There we go. And then we want these on G0, so they'll have to come down a little bit further. Make sure you deselect all of them so that you don't end up moving the whole lot again. I only want to move these 2 down to G0. And these 2 will be at B flat 0. And that's Li. Lii has got similar notes to L, so I'm going to copy L and paste that in after Li. I'll rename it now just so it doesn't get confusing when I'm looking at the edit screen, except that I went into the edit screen instead. Still going to rename it first, Lii. It's called itself Motif Lily. Gotta love predictive text. Okay, that's more like it. And let's go in here. Now we're going to edit it. And we've got some of the same notes as we had in motif L. we just need to add the extra notes in underneath these. So the F3, the D3 and the F3 here are all still there. We're going to add in the notes underneath. So underneath this first one, we've got a D3 and an A2. Underneath these two, we've got B flat 2. And here's where you've got to make sure they match the length of the ones above. They should match exactly. In fact, there's probably a way to copy and paste these, which I know how to do on Logic, but I've not done it on GarageBand. Every time I try and do something, it ends up deleting it. So it's best just to tap them in again, but you've got to make sure they're exactly the same length. So that's a B flat 2. And you just want this white line to line up. If it doesn't exactly, zoom in a little bit. Now it does. And the last one here is a G2. Okay, and then the last chord, it's got those F3s at the top, D3s underneath. And B flat 2s underneath that. That's it. And I've already renamed that. I'm just going to have a listen to them and check they've come out right. So I'm going to solo them. Yep, sounding right. So we are the last two motifs, which are right at the end of the track. They come up in the last bar. So they're not very long. Let me just create a new track for these. So I'm going to duplicate. Go in here and edit. I need a D3 for one beat. I'm just going to zoom that screen out a little bit, or in I should say. So that's one beat, 4 of these boxes. Then I've got a 2-box gap, and then 2 notes that are 1 box each. G sharp 2, for 1 box, and A2. And then finish with a D2. Let me just scroll down. And that last note is 4 boxes again because it's a crotchet. And that leaves a gap at the end of the bar, which is what we want. So let's name that. And for motif MI, I'm just going to copy M and paste. I'll rename that now. And these are going to exactly the same pitches but 2 octaves lower. So I'm going to drag the screen out here to select them all. And I'm going to do something I haven't done before, which is to shrink the screen vertically. I've always been doing it horizontally, but now if I do it vertically, you can see that the piano shrinks, the keys all shrink, and it's going to be easier to see where D1 is down here. So instead of pulling these down the screen and moving around to notes that you can't see, I can just shrink the keyboard. And this first note all the way down to D1. Done, and I've already renamed it. That is the end. I have every single motif in here. If you've completed this, well done. I would go back and listen to each motif as a solo and just check that there's no glaring errors, no notes that sound horrible, no notes that aren't slightly out of line with each other that shouldn't be, and no notes where the rhythm sounds wrong to you. But for now, we've got all our motifs done. Congratulations.